Hello and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. Make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you're keeping up with all of our opinions on the latest happenings in the world of professional wrestling. It's WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble is this weekend. We're going to talk all about that on this episode. Yes, I said we because I can't do it by myself. Joining me as always is the young buck, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andy York in the house. A loaded show today, my friend.
Oh yeah, my favorite time of the year. The Rumble is coming up this week, and excited to talk about it and look into it and predict it and get it wrong like I always do, because that's just the fun of it and everything. So I'm looking forward to it.
I was gonna say it's almost fun to get it wrong too, because we can shoot our shot and we can say, okay, well, I'd really like this to happen, but then they always pull something out that we're like, man, I'm so glad that happened. That was so cool, So
Yeah.
2021 was a big Royal Rumble. They've got a lot to live up to, especially with a crowd back. It's going to be a great show, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, it kind of surprised. I was thinking about it the other day. This is the first Rumble back with a live crowd since 2020. So, I think they're probably going to have a lot of big things planned just for that fact. Yep. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what's going to happen.
And it's going to be a big crowd. It's at a stadium.
Yep.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. So make sure, again, you keep it right here at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We drop brand new shows every Monday and Wednesday, wherever you find your podcast, on SportsWire Radio, sportnarium.com/player. And the video version is available exclusive to the bodyslam.net YouTube channel. So whichever platform that you are tuned in on today, thank you so much for doing that. Make sure you support that organization. Make sure you follow their other shows. I know they would greatly appreciate it as well. Hit that subscribe button. A lot of great content coming your way in the world of wrestling. So make sure you're following along and supporting those platforms. But this week, Andy, I mentioned we've got episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays, new episodes. This week, we not only have 2 shows, we have 4 shows coming up this week. It's a loaded week in wrestling. On Monday, we dropped our top 10 Royal Rumble moments. If you haven't checked that episode out yet, make sure that you do that. A lot of fun. Andy and I actually agreed on the top 2 in
and
that
number
order.
8.
And number 8. That's
which
true.
Was weird.
Yes. So we agreed on those things. So a lot of fun conversation. Make sure you go back and check that out to see who we picked as our top 2 Rumble moments. And then obviously today we are going to talk a little bit about AEW as much as we can, but we're mainly going to devote this show to the Royal Rumble coming up this Saturday. We're going to preview the whole card. So since we are devoting a lot of our time to the Rumble, this Friday, we are going to do a full bonus episode talking all about AEW. We realize Beach Break is this week, a huge week. The possibility of Johnny Gargano debuting, the ladder match between Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other things. Not only that, but a lot of good things happened last week. So we want to try to lump all that into one episode. We're going to get to some of it today, but not nearly all of it. So Friday is going to be your day full on AEW bonus podcast, wherever you find your podcast and those platforms that I mentioned. So make sure you keep it tuned in. And then Saturday, we're going live after the Royal Rumble. Myself, Andy, and special guest, my dad, Billy Belcher, will be in the house to give his thoughts on the current product, something that we have not seen on this podcast yet. So Andy, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see how that goes.
It's always fun when your dad's around. He brings a fun perspective to everything, so I'm very excited to have him on.
He does. It's a lot of fun, especially live.
Oh yeah,
live.
Got a live mic in his hand. It's going to be dangerous.
Oh my gosh. Oh Lord have mercy. So anyway, it's going to be a blast. This Saturday we will go live wherever you find your podcast. On I think we're going to be live on bodyslam.net, so keep it tuned in here. We'll make sure to let you know about that. I think we'll be live there, but we'll give you all those details. Make sure you follow at PBW Podcast so you'll know when we're coming. All right, Andy, let's get to it. We've babbled. We've wasted enough time. Let's get to a little bit of AEW talk, man. before we get to the Royal Rumble. Obviously, the biggest news from AEW this week. I can't believe we didn't even talk about it last week. I think the announcement was made after we recorded, so I'm not going to fault us too much for that. But the return of Jon Moxley last week, kicking off the show. What an emotional return. He looked great. I didn't realize how much weight he needed to lose, but the guy looked great. Kudos to him for tackling his demons, coming out on the other side and being so open about it.
Yeah.
It's awesome that he's back, man.
Yeah, it was a great way to kick off the show. It was great to see him back. Like you said, he looked fantastic. He looked better than when he left, which was kind of the whole part of the whole purpose of it.
Right.
And just the promo he cut, man, was context wise one of the best promos I've ever heard. Like just the passion that he has and everything that he said, and you could just tell how rejuvenated he was and how happy he was to be back and how happy the process was and like how every step he took, was for him, for Renee, for their kids, for everything down the line. So kudos to him for coming back. Kudos for him to have two great matches this weekend. If you haven't seen the match on Rampage, it was awesome. If you haven't seen the match on World on GCW against Homicide, it was a lot of fun. So like two matches back to back, he absolutely delivered this weekend. One of my favorite wrestling quotes of all time now is, the only thing I drink now is blood. And I was like, that was awesome. Like that was a great line. That was an awesome way to finish a promo. And I think he's coming out for blood. I really do. And I think this may be the year of Jon Moxley in 2022 after everything that he's been through, all of the difficulties and the struggles. Like I think he is coming out for a vengeance, and I'm so excited for it.
I mean, that line is straight up Mick Foley. Like that's a Mick Foley line right there. It'll be interesting to see what he does in 2022, if he can become one of those big spotlight wrestlers without winning the world championship, because I don't think they'll put it back on him, but that could be a very interesting twist.
I mean,
we shall see.
They're already starting off hot with basically teasing a feud between him and Bryan Danielson, and that's going to be amazing to see that. So I think he's coming back with a great start, and I think he's coming back ready to go.
And I think so too. And the fans seem to receive it very, very well. Obviously, AEW fans are great. I'm just going to be honest. A lot of them are delusional when it comes to comparing in WWE and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to talk about that. But with everything that AEW does, they are very gracious. They're very open.
They're passionate.
Accepting and passionate and absolutely all those things. So it's a great reception. But there was a big figure in the wrestling community who didn't see it that way. You brought this to my attention on Friday while we were at SmackDown, and I didn't realize that this. Provide context for our listeners as to what we might be talking about if they're not familiar with it.
Yeah, so on, I believe it was on Busted Open, Bully Ray, who is not shy about his opinions,
and I respect him for that.
I respect him for that. I do too, because he is probably the greatest tag team wrestler of all time. Like they like to mention on there, he's he understands the business, but he understands it from an old school perspective in a lot of ways. And so he went on Busted Open, and this is kind of just the full quote, but he said, "I did enjoy that they started off with Moxley. They came out with a bang, people were ready for it, and Moxley said what he needed to say. However, I would have liked to have heard him just a little bit of accountability from Jon. I understand the whole demons thing, and we always use the word demons as a creative word to get around the real issues, whether it's an alcohol issue, whether it's a drug issue. In Tommy Dreamer's case, it's an eating issue. Everybody has some kind of demon that they have to get around. We have our demons. These demons got the best of Jon for a time period where he had to step away from AEW. I would have liked to heard him say a bit of an apology to AEW fans. You don't have to apologize to the boys, even though the boys do count on you, but any one of those guys and gals could have had the same problems that you did. And trust me, I came up in an era where a slew of men and women had their demons. The fans expect a little bit more from you. What about the fans that bought tickets to see AEW and Jon Moxley while Jon was away taking care of his problems? I am very happy that he left and took care of his problem. and he looked incredibly healthy last night. And I love everything that he said. I just would have loved to have heard a little bit of accountability. So he basically was saying that Jon Moxley needed to apologize to the AEW fans for having to take time to step away, which is kind of a stupid thing to say, in all honesty.
It really is.
Because as an AEW fan, I mean, you can tell by my T-shirt, you can tell by how we talk every single week. Like, I've got 2 or 3 figures behind me that are AEW figures. I'm a diehard AEW fan. And as a passionate AEW fan, the last thing I need to hear is an apology for Moxley needing to go away to take care of himself.
Absolutely.
I would rather him go away for 6 months, 5 months to take care of himself than for him to have some problem, some issue that takes him away completely from us. And I think that that's part of this whole issue. And I respect Bully Ray, and I think he sometimes nails things on the head, but this was a very bad take and something that if he thought it, he probably should not have said it, because it's something that completely missed, in my opinion.
I mean, it would be different if Mox had gone away and not said anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would have been different if the circumstances surrounding this would have been secretive, or it would have been, you know what I mean? But like, it wasn't.
He was upfront from the beginning.
Mox, Tony Khan, everybody was open. Renee, everybody was open from the beginning. So fans understand that. Fans accept that. When a very weighty topic like alcoholism or addiction in any way comes up in a public forum, anybody that let me rephrase. People don't want to criticize it because it hits home for everybody in one way or another.
Right.
So fans, they didn't expect an apology from him. No. I think if they would have gotten an apology, it would have almost been like, well, why are you doing that? We don't need that. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to say it would have hurt him to apologize, but it was not necessary in any way. Now, I will say this. I'm not defending Bully Ray and saying this. I don't know what Bully's gone through. I don't know what Bully's family or close people around Bully have gone through. Something prompted him to make that comment. Yeah. I don't think it was a cold-hearted comment. You know what I mean? So something prompted that. I don't know what it was. So I'm not going to say it was totally out of line, but I don't know. I don't think it was right.
Plus, like, I think part of it, because he mentioned a lot about accountability, the fact that they were so upfront about everything from the beginning automatically responds with accountability from everybody.
Sure.
Because now it's like he's accountable to do what he said he was going to do and come back, and like all this different stuff that he said he was going to do when he left. And so I think that was this form of accountability. And everybody struggles with something. You know, it may not be as difficult as abuse, or, you know, as difficult as some of this other stuff that I'm sure these wrestlers have had to go through. I mean,
absolutely.
The first part of 2020 people forget about was that whole speaking out movement from a lot of independent female wrestlers that was difficult for them. And this, you know, there's a lot of different things that people go through that they don't need to apologize for at all. And I think this is one of those of just him doing what he said he was going to do and coming back and getting himself right and feeling better and everything. That's not even an apology, but it's good enough for me to be like, I don't need you to apologize. Like, I'm glad. I'd rather you go away now and fix yourself than, you know, something terrible happen where you don't come back. And that's all that I needed you to do. And as an AEW fan, he completely delivered on that. And the promo he said, he did not skip it. He did not miss a beat. Did not miss a beat.
He owned up to it. You know, again, it would be different if, you know, he would have come out and said, well, I went because my wife made me, or I went because of this. No, he took full responsibility. And that's how you can tell that someone who has gone through addiction, has gone through a rehab process. That's how you can tell that they've come out better on the other side. Is they own up to it. They know. They fix themselves for themselves. You know what I mean?
That's part of it. Plus, the best thing, not the best thing, but one of the best things he said was 2 seconds in when that stupid fan and the crowd
my
yelled
gosh,
something
I
out,
know.
and Moxley just went off. And I was like, Moxley is back, and this is the best way. And I'm sure that TBS was not happy about it, but I'm sure Tony Khan and AEW like, we will happily pay the fine
Yep,
for that, because
that's
that
right.
was worth it. That was worth it.
Absolutely. So great to see Moxley back. We can't overstate that enough. Great
Yep.
to see Moxley back. Moxley was also mentioned on another promotion, not GCW,
Twice.
that we will talk about in just a little bit. But speaking of GCW, I know you and I both have some thoughts on that show. So maybe we'll get into a little bit of that on Friday as well on our bonus pod. So if you're looking for some the world on GCW thoughts, we'll get into that on Friday. But as far as AEW is concerned, I know I said we were going to touch on AEW. Was there anything else from Rampage or Dynamite this week that really stuck out to you as something that we really need to address on today's podcast that just cannot wait for the bonus pod on Friday?
I think the other big thing, other than the mixed tag match, but the other big thing was Cody's promo. Like, the two promos of the night were just electric. Like, the Cody promo reminded me why he was able to do what he was able to do when he left WWE. And it was awesome to hear him say that. It was awesome to hear him talk trash about WWE, and because that's what he's really good at. And it's a lot of people hate it, but it's fun to hear him do that. Plus, with how bad they kind of treated him, he's like the one. Him and Punk are kind of like the two guys that can say what they want to say about WWE, and everybody's like, "We get it, we understand why." Because I'm sure you were very frustrated there. But his promo was passionate. His promo, like, the crowd got behind him in the promo, which was very interesting to see that, because he was heavily booed when he came out.
Didn't he say something about the Rumble in his promo? Did he? I don't know if he mentioned the Rumble.
There were chants for the Royal Rumble.
Okay, that's what it was.
And he basically said, like, why would I waste my time going to a lower company when I could stay here? Or something. He said something like that, basically.
Gotcha.
So I don't think he's definitely going to be in the Rumble. But I love the promo. It was passionate. I'm very excited to see the ladder match for the TNT Championship. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited to see where they're going to go from there with it. But the promo itself was just really, really epic.
It was really good, man. And I even put this in my notes in my phone. Let me get this out so I can read it. Because I'm with you. I thought it was fantastic. This is exactly what I wrote, and I hope this makes sense. I was writing it on the fly as I was listening to this promo. I said, I know people really hate on Cody, especially right now, but every time he comes out, he gets booed. But then every time you put a mic in his hand and he cuts a passionate promo, people get behind him and they chant his name, and it's incredibly impressive. Just shows you how talented he is.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude, he knows how to flip a crowd. No matter if you like Cody or not, you have to recognize the fact that he totally flipped that crowd, like you just said, man.
Yeah.
And it was just, man, oh my gosh, it was so good. So I agree. That was huge. The promo setting up the ladder match, obviously, I called
without
that
Sammy even getting involved.
Sammy wasn't even there. Sammy was on a beach,
Yeah.
That they showed during the commercial, which I'm not a fan of, by the way. If we're continuing and we're talking about this, if you are building this to your big match, do not have that. I know he did the signs and it took, throughout the commercial break. I get that. Don't do that during a commercial break. That needs to be a segment.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, every time they do picture in picture, I'm still fast forwarding.
Yeah.
I'm not paying attention.
It depends on the match, but for the most part, that's what I do too, is kind of fast forward. One other thing though he did mention, that was obviously kind of a hot topic, which we kind of talked about before we hit record, if we were going to talk about it or not. And I think this is a great place to kind of throw this in. But he made fun of the Walter name change.
Yes, he did.
Because of Brody King coming in, which I never really put two and two together. He said, you have guts to come into this company and still keep your name Brody. Because, and I love the fact that he was like, in 10 years, little Brody's going to come in and show you why he's the real Brody. And like all the stuff like that was really cool. Like I loved every second of that. But he said, he said he didn't come in here. He said basically something about like we're not going to call him Michael McKillicuddy or something like. He said some weird name that was amazing, like perfect reference to the Gunther Walter thing. So, and he said that Undisputed Era, or basically talking about Fish and O'Reilly, how they did really well on their developmental contract, but now it's time for them to come to the big leagues or something. It was just every shot he took was stuff that we as fans have been saying about WWE for a little bit, especially after taking Walter and changing his name to Gunther for no reason
whatsoever.
British. So it made no sense. But all those stuff like that was what made the promo so good to me.
Yep. The thing that I'll pick out from AEW that sticks out for me for this week is I have it in my notes. Where is it? Oh, the main event. Sting and Darby Allin versus the Acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it sticks out to me so much is Sting wrestled the majority of the match.
He did.
And it was really good.
Yeah. I was shocked. I was shocked.
It was so good. Like, not only did the Acclaimed mention Starrcade 97 in their rap.
Oh, I thought about you as soon as they said that.
I just about went through my television when they said that. Oh, my gosh. And they did it. I know the reason they did it. Not only are they facing Sting, they were in Washington, D.C. Not necessarily the same building that happened, but that's where Starrcade 97 happened. Yeah. So I get that. But, man, can I just say, I put this in my notes on my phone, too. I should have put notes on, where did I put this? I should have put all of my notes together, and I didn't do it. I've harped on, we've both kind of harped on the amount that Sting is on television unnecessarily, know. But when he gets out in the ring, obviously he continues to impress people. He does crazy stuff like jumping off the stage through a table and just crazy stuff that a 62, 63-year-old man should not be doing. No. Especially with the neck injury that he has.
Yes.
But this further proves that he needs a singles match in AEW.
Yep.
His performances that he's had against the Acclaimed, both against the Acclaimed, against 2.0 in that street fight, against
his
FTR.
first match in, even though it was cinematic, his still first match in with it was Brian Cage and Ricky Stark.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the Double or Nothing match, the actual tag match of Double or Nothing, where they faced. Now I couldn't tell you who they faced, but where he jumped off the stage. So he needs a singles match. I don't know who it needs to be against somebody big. I go back to Chris Jericho. I want to see Sting and Chris Jericho one time.
Yeah,
just one time. But this further proves, man, that he needs a singles match.
I think he needs, because I think he looked fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from him. And every match he's been in so far, he's looked great. And I'm not taking anything away from him. But I think part of it is because of the people you put him in the ring with as well.
Yep.
Because like the Acclaimed are really good. Like the Acclaimed are really good in the ring. Brian Cage and Ricky Stark are obviously really good in the ring. FTR is probably the best, if not one of the best tag teams on the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so for his opponent, if he wants to do one-on-one, he needs to be in the ring with somebody that can, I don't want to say carry him, but that can help him along the way.
Yeah,
we don't need a Goldberg Undertaker problem again, because we've seen with both of those guys, like if they're in the ring with somebody that can help carry them, they can still put on pretty decent matches. We look at The Undertaker versus AJ Styles, Undertaker and Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon on a random Extreme Rules that had no reason to be good and was the best match of the night for some reason. Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley was really good. Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam a couple years ago was really good. So, like, you put them in the ring with somebody that's really good and it will carry them along. I would love to see Sting versus Malachi Black. I think that would be a lot of fun.
That would be good.
And
that would be good.
I would love it. And you may hate this. I would love it if Malachi just kind of squashed him. Because if you want to build Malachi up, I mean, if you want to build Malachi up, I think that would be a great way to kind of kick that off. Because I don't think it would hurt Sting. And then maybe you just have them maybe you have Sting beat Brody King and then you have Sting versus Malachi Black and they go 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long it is. Right. But I still think at the end of the day, and obviously we've seen this with Sting in WWE, he doesn't mind putting people over, and I think he would be more than happy to put somebody like Malachi Black over. So maybe that would be like the feud to end Sting's career in AEW, to like build Malachi Black up. I think at some point it would be fun to have a Darby Allin versus Sting match just to see who the best face paint guy in AEW is. That's all the story I need for that match, is just to see who's the best. And yeah, but I agree. I think it's time for Sting to have his own one-on-one match at a pay-per-view against a formidable opponent that is going to be something different and take Sting kind of out of his comfort zone.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned guys like Malachi Black, and I mentioned Chris Jericho. Those guys don't have this high-octane offense that Sting has to keep up with. You know, they're mostly strikers, ground and pound, that kind of thing, and Sting can deal with that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
not saying he can't keep up with high flying. We've seen him against 2.0 and the Acclaimed and that kind of stuff. But for Sting's safety in a one-on-one match, I think that's the best kind of matchup for him.
Throw in an Adam Cole there too. Like, Adam Cole is not a flippy guy. Like, he's a pretty grounded wrestler, and I think that would be a lot of fun to see that. But yeah, I think the style of opponent and the ability of the opponent really matters when it comes to Sting, because we don't want to see a Sting versus Arn Anderson match or a Sting versus Tully Blanchard match, because that would just, be a Goldberg Undertaker too that we don't want to see. And so I think you can put him in there with somebody that can help carry the match and sell like crazy for Sting, but also can, do some damage to Sting and it be believable at the same time.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. If you are just now checking us out, welcome to the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. Thank you for joining us, whether you're listening on a traditional audio format, whether you're listening on Sports Wire Radio, or whether you're watching us on Bodyslam.net's YouTube channel. Thank you so much for doing that. I am your phenomenal host, Chris Belcher. Joining me, as always, is the young buck, Andy York. And again, I'm going to remind everybody, we're going to talk a whole lot about AEW this coming Friday on our bonus episode that'll be available wherever our shows are available. So all three of those platforms. So make sure you check it out. I know that we went a little bit longer on AEW than we kind of anticipated on this episode, but that's okay. We knew it was needed. Those things happen, and we want to talk about those things. Again, this podcast is for the fans, by the fans. We'll talk about what you want to hear about, and we're fans first and foremost. So if it gets us excited, we're going to keep talking about it and keep talking about it. But again, more on AEW this coming Friday. A lot of stuff to cover there. But let's dive in, man. The WWE Royal Rumble is this Saturday. Your favorite pay-per-view of the year. Well, maybe not in 2022, but normally your favorite pay-per-view of the year. Let's break it down. Let's run down the card and let's see what really jumps out to us. Obviously, the WWE Championship match, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, a highly, highly anticipated match that fans have wanted to see for a real long time. And obviously, Bobby Lashley has wanted for a long time. That's going down this Saturday, as well as for the Universal Championship, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. The Raw Women's Championship is on the line. Becky Lynch versus Doudrop. Miz and Maurice, the It couple, taking on Edge and Beth Phoenix, the Grit couple, in a very highly anticipated mixed tag match. And then obviously, Andy, you have the men's and the women's Royal Rumbles, the winners moving on to WrestleMania to face the champion of their choice. Man, a whole lot of stuff going on at the Royal Rumble. Some big time matches. Let's start with Brock and Bobby, man. The weigh-in on Monday Night Raw was hilarious. Brock and his cowboy gimmick. It's been really good. We talked about on this podcast when we figured out that it was going to be Brock and Bobby. We called this at day one when Brock didn't really get any offense on Bobby. Like, we knew this was going to happen. And we anticipated the war of words being between Paul Heyman and MVP. And that has not been the case at all. It's been quite the opposite.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. First off, Cowboy Brock was probably my favorite version of Brock Lesnar so far. Like, it was overall Brock, but now it's Cowboy Brock because it just fits with the little braid that he has and everything else. It was just amazing.
I don't know. Hip hop Brock when he was Money in the Bank.
Yeah, but that's not who Brock is. Brock lives on a ranch out in the middle of nowhere. He's a cowboy through and through.
I know, but okay, I'll let you have it. Go ahead.
But because I even tweeted out, if I can't play as Cowboy Brock in WWE 2K22, then what's the point? Like, I need that DLC at some point,
right?
But the war of words.
I know.
There you go. It's a tongue twister. But between Bobby and Brock has been so fun to listen to, so fun to watch. I love the fact that Bobby wants this match so bad that Brock knows it, and Brock continues to pester him by saying, "Bobby, who? Like, I don't even know who you are. You're just the little me wannabe that am going to be at the Rumble or whatever." All of that stuff is amazing. Corey Graves and Brock Lesnar in the ring together was really fun. He recently got cleared, so I was expecting him, after he got a little lippy with Brock, to go flying somewhere, but he didn't. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. The weigh-in, somebody's tweeted on Twitter, I don't remember who said this, but I completely agree. We need to get rid of contract signings and do more weigh-ins, because I think it feels more. I think you can do a mix of both, but I think for Brock matches, I think it needs to be weigh-ins, because it fits more with this caliber of match. But yeah, the whole segment's really great. That probably the second or third match that I'm most looking forward to is this one. I'm expecting it to be not the longest match on the card, but it's going to be move after move after move. It's going to go really quick. It's not going to be any tie-ups or lock-ups or anything. They're just going to start hitting their moves and going crazy, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Like, if you think you're going to go get some popcorn or something to drink or whatever, don't do it in this match. You will not have time. You will miss something.
Yes.
I think you made a great point a few minutes ago when you were talking about, or it sprang a question at least. You were talking about Brock saying Bobby who and not acknowledging him, no pun intended, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that further cements the fact that Bobby will probably win the match at Rumble? Just because and the reason I ask that is because if Brock wins, then he continues the narrative of Bobby Lashley's nobody. Lashley's nobody kind of thing. Unless we're going to get a rematch, like, it just demeans Bobby a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I think, though, if Bobby puts up a really great performance against Brock, and Brock maybe at the end of the match acknowledges Bobby, or like nods at Bobby, or shakes his hand, or raises his whatever.
Yeah,
I think that would be fine, because I don't think Bobby's going to win this match. I think Brock is going to retain. And I think Brock may retain up to Mania. I think there's a good chance he may lose it at Saudi in the Elimination Chamber. I think that would be kind of a great way to maybe take it off of him without him being hurt or anything. Maybe Roman comes in and spears him, and somebody gets the pin, and then Brock's out, and then that kind of builds that forward. It just kind of depends on what happens at the Rumble. But yeah, I don't think Bobby's going to get hurt by losing to Brock. It just depends on how he gets beat.
Right.
If he gets beat in a fashion that Finn Balor and Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles got beat by Brock, then he's going to be just fine. But if it's like a Ricochet moment, or like a Roman Reigns moment from WrestleMania 34, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, it's going to be a little bit. It's going to take some away from Bobby. But I think this is a match that Brock himself has wanted for a long time as well. So I think it's going to go the distance. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I don't think anybody's really going to be hurt from this match at all.
I think it's just, I just posed that question because it just, it's just interesting the way that words can influence fans' decisions and that kind of thing. So that's my only question with that. But I'm like you. I think us, Brock and Bobby, and fans all around the world, I think this is one of the more anticipated matches that we have seen in a long, long time. So, like, I'm with you. I don't think anybody's going to get hurt by winning or losing because of the year that they've had beforehand, specifically talking about Bobby, and then Brock is just Brock. So they'll both find a way to recover no matter who loses, I think. Let's move over to the SmackDown side. The Universal Championship, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. We were in attendance at SmackDown this past week, where we saw Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens against the Usos, which we said on this podcast needed to happen at some point, and it just so happened to be in Nashville, which was great. I was very happy about that. But that means that by that victory, even though it was by DQ, the Usos are banned from ringside for this match. Man, the other thing that happened on SmackDown, I alluded to it earlier, Seth Rollins name dropped Jon Moxley in his promo. And Pat McAfee did too. Referred to him as Mox, not Ambrose. So
I think it was
very strategic.
Yeah, and I think he wanted to do it kind of as like a proud of you moment to Moxley for all the stuff that we talked about at the beginning. I think it was definitely because Seth has said some things in the past about Moxley leaving WWE and AEW, and Seth Rollins is a WWE guy through and through right now, as he should be, because he is one of the top guys in the company. His love and brotherhood with Mox and with Roman is basically unmatched by anybody else other than probably the New Day. So like they were brothers, they worked together, they rode together, all those different things. So I'm sure that was a nice little shout out to him that he probably won't ever see, because I'm sure he doesn't care about watching WWE product, but I'm sure it was just a nice little shout out of saying proud of you, continue the great work, things like that. So it was really cool. The crowd reaction on TV was not as loud as it was actually in the arena when he said it, because people it got a reaction, and you couldn't really hear it on TV, but it got a really strong reaction in the arena. So that was a really cool moment to hear that.
Yeah, it definitely was, for sure. Definitely unexpected. So you kind of had to like tune your ear to it and be like, "Oh, we both
looked at each other like, did he say Moxley? Like, did he say Mox?"
He said Mox. So that was great. But all that to say, I'm very much looking forward to this match. I've been very vocal on this show about this should be a WrestleMania match, but it's actually going to be a Rumble match.
There's two WrestleMania caliber matches on the Rumble this year.
Absolutely, it is
fine.
And a third one being the mixed tag match. I think Miz and Maurice against Edge and Beth Phoenix. They've done a really good job of building this up on Raw, doing the bloodbath and then the birthday celebration and the brick and all the stuff that they've done. It's really, really cool. Like, you had to know, man, when Edge came back, that he was going to have a mixed tag match with Beth at some point.
Yeah.
Like, you knew it was going to happen, and we're getting it at the Rumble, not WrestleMania, which I'm okay with.
We talked about it like months ago. We thought maybe it was going to be Edge and Beth versus Seth and Becky. And like maybe that's a good way to build to Beth and Becky at some point down the line. But I think Miz and Maurice are the perfect couple for this to happen with. They obviously done this before with John Cena and Nikki Bella. They've done it here again. I honestly don't know. I think this one is actually more like 50-50 on who's going to win, to be completely honest, because I would not be shocked if this continues on to WrestleMania. But yeah, it's a match that I'm actually surprised is happening on the Rumble, and I'm looking forward to. But I'm also looking forward to see if any of the four of them are going to show up in the Rumbles later on, or I think if this match goes on first, we're going to see all four of them in the Rumble, respectively. Maybe three of the four in the Rumble. I don't know if Maurice would be in the Rumble or not, but I think three of the four definitely would be in the Rumble if this is the first match out of the gate.
I definitely think it is the first match out of the gate, unless Brock and Bobby's the first match out of the gate.
Which that would be a great opener as well.
Well, I mean, look, last year's Royal Rumble, the first match out of the gate was Drew and Goldberg.
Yeah.
So
I think Brock's the kind of guy, like he says all the time, if I'm not first, then let me go. Or if I'm not last, let me go first so I can just go home. So I can just get out of here and go home.
Well, plus, if something happens where Brock does lose,
he's going to join
the
Rumble.
Gives him the opportunity to join the Rumble.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. The other match on the card before we get to the Rumbles is Becky Lynch and Doudrop. Any comment about this match?
The promo on Monday kind of got me hyped for the match a little bit. Like,
really?
I love the promo between the two of them. Full disclosure, I know I'm normally hard on Raw. I enjoyed Monday Night Raw this week.
That was really good.
The matches this week were really good. The promo segments were really good.
Dude.
The Alpha Academy versus RK Bro spelling bee was absolutely amazing. Like, I loved every second of it, and I'm excited for next week's as well. So, like, kudos to them for doing something cheesy and making it work.
Did they announce what next week's is going to be? Or did I miss that?
It is a scooter race between Matt Riddle and Otis, I believe it is, because they said that they did the academic side. Now they're going to do the PE side of school. So
Oh my gosh,
that's what they're doing. Riddle announced that after the match, so that's happening next week.
That's so good. I must have missed that when I was watching through it. But yes, I agree. Raw was good, not to totally derail from Becky Lynch and Doudrop, but Damian Priest and KO was good. AJ Styles and Austin Theory put on another banger of a match.
The Mysterios and the Street Profits was fun. Like,
yes, all
of that was fun. So but the promo between Becky and Doudrop got me fired up for it, and then the altercation between the two of them was really great as well. So I'm not necessarily as like, I still think this is probably my least anticipated match on the card.
Oh, most definitely.
But I don't think it's going to be terrible as bad as I thought it was going to be when it first happened. I think it's going to be a great way to make Becky look strong heading into WrestleMania. I think Doudrop's going to look great in defeat. Maybe she joins the Rumble as well. But I think it's just going to be a decent match that's going to do the job of making Becky Lynch look strong for whoever wins the Rumble, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit of our predictions of who will win the Rumble. But I think it's just going to do the purpose that was intended for, without hurting, someone like Bianca Belair or Liv Morgan. So I take all my comments back about Doudrop winning. I think it makes sense for her to win, or to be here at the Rumble instead of in the Rumble match.
I think she is one that could have a good showing in the Royal Rumble. If she loses, then she gets in there. She could be one of those that
she could be like the Nia Jax for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely, for sure. Let's talk about that. Let's go to the Women's Royal Rumble. That's a perfect segue. Look at us doing segues. Women's Royal Rumble winner gets a shot at either Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair, but Charlotte Flair is going to be in the Royal Rumble, so that could provide interesting storylines. I personally think that whoever wins the Royal Rumble is going after Charlotte. The reason I think that is because I'm sticking to my guns that it's Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, and I don't think Ronda needs to win the Rumble to go after Becky. I think you waste an opportunity for that.
Yeah.
So that story tells itself. Let the Rumble winner go after Charlotte. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and normally I would agree with you, but I think a couple years ago, Charlotte could have just won or not win the Rumble and just challenged Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship, and everybody would have been fine as well. So that's why I think whoever wins is going after Becky than Charlotte.
That could be true, but look at the circumstances surrounding that. You got to think that it would have been so much. That whole storyline could have been so much better if we not had a pandemic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There could have been a lot more spotlight because they don't even acknowledge that Charlotte was NXT champion anymore.
Yeah.
So like that storyline could have been so much better. That was one I think that suffered a lot from the pandemic. But that's not for me to decide. Anyway, all right. So let's go through the Rumble here as far as the female side goes. I mentioned that Doudrop could be a standout performer. And, we always have those performers that really stand out above the rest. Doudrop could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think I'm going to give I've been down on her a lot on this podcast, but I'm going to give the rub to Liv Morgan as far as performer for the Rumble goes. I don't think she's going to win, but I think she's got a good shot to have a really good showing to further try to cement her as a top star in the women's division.
Yeah, she's kind of like my dark horse to win right now.
There you go.
I think there is a chance that she could win. I'm not going to say it's a 0% chance. I think there is a really good chance that she could win. She's not my pick to win, but I think there's a really great chance. I think, to me, it comes down to three people that could be the standout for the Rumble. I think it's her, I think it's Bianca Belair, and I think it's Rhea Ripley. I think this is a great way to build back up Rhea Ripley after you've kind of tore down for like 6-7 months now. I think this is a great way to show how great she is and how great she can be. But I will say, for that 6-woman tag match, Liv Morgan got the biggest reaction out of everybody. Like she showed up on screen, she got a massive pop. And so
she really did.
I think that could start planting the seeds of her going after, if Ronda is not going to be there, going after Becky at WrestleMania. That could be like a Kofi Kingston moment all over again for her. So I think that's something to look out for in the Rumble. But yeah, I think, to me, it comes down to Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair one of the three of them are going to be the Iron Woman for this match, in my opinion. I really would not be shocked if it was Liv.
All right, so before we get to our predictions to who wins the match, let's go to some surprises. Let me try that again. Let's go to some surprises. There's always surprises. WWE's already announced Mickie James, Lita, Summer Rae, the
Bella
Bellas.
Twins.
I get that. Cool. But there's still some people they have not announced that could potentially be in the match. Give me one or two, maybe three surprises that you think for the Women's Royal Rumble.
I think one is probably Trish Stratus.
She's on my list too.
I think because I want to see Trish Stratus and Lita in the ring together during the Rumble to see that face to face. And I think that's maybe why they announced Lita beforehand, so that she's there, and then Trish's music hits like 2 or 3 numbers later, and then the crowd goes crazy for that. I think that's one. I'm not going to put it past Michelle McCool being there, because she's always at one of these. She's always in these moments, which, granted, she was ahead of her time in the Divas division, so
sure.
I fully understand. I fully understand that. I fully expect that. And then the third one, I'm going to wait, because the third one is actually my pick to win the Rumble, so I'm going to hold off on that one. So.
Okay, awesome. All right, so if I'm picking surprises, I'm going to hold off on my third surprise too, because she's my pick to win. You mentioned Trish. I said she's on my list as well. I think somebody else that gets in there as a surprise that hasn't been announced, and I think could be the Iron Woman of the Rumble, is Raquel Gonzalez.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
I think she's got a good shot to get in there.
Yeah,
and do some damage.
Think about that.
I think that's a big pick from NXT.
That is a big
for
pick.
Me. I think there's a chance she could win it. She's my dark horse to win.
Raquel versus Charlotte would be a lot of fun. Would be a lot of fun to see that. So yeah, I would be fine with that.
There you go. But my pick to win and my third surprise, I'm gonna really laugh if we have the same one.
I don't think we do.
You don't think? Okay,
no.
Cool. My third surprise and the winner is Asuka.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think Asuka comes back. I think Asuka wins. I think we see Charlotte and Asuka again at WrestleMania.
She gets her win back.
Yeah. And I think that just because you can't go wrong with Charlotte versus Asuka.
Yeah.
They have proven it time and time again. They're going to put on a banger of a match. They arguably had the best match at WrestleMania 34. So they could repeat that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Actually, who's your winner and who's your surprise?
So I actually forgot one. So I'm going to throw one out there, a surprise, and then I'll get my winner. I think Io Shirai might show up as well. And I think she could be another good one that could be the Iron Woman of the match. But my winner, it's coming out at number 30, and it's setting up the match at WrestleMania, because all the reports this week, if you believe the reports, have been pushing that WWE wants to bring her back. Yep. And I think Ronda Rousey returns, number 30. I think she wins, and I think she goes after Becky, and we get a proper Becky versus Ronda WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. And I think it's gonna. I don't know who would win that. Now, honestly, I think they'll come down to a final two of Ronda and Charlotte. And I think that's kind of the match within the match. And then Ronda gets the win over Charlotte, and then we head to Becky versus Ronda at WrestleMania. So that's my prediction. I don't know if I'm going to be right or not. Probably not, because I'm normally wrong on the Rumble, but I'm okay with that. So, but it's something that I think would be very interesting to see that.
That's a safe pick, obviously. Yep. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good pick. It's
definitely a safe pick.
It's definitely a safe pick. I said it earlier. I don't think Ronda needs the Rumble to go after Becky, but obviously it would be a big moment. It would be huge. Yada yada yada. Let's move over to the men's side. Who do you think? Oh, we'll start with our surprises. Who do you think is going to be some shockers that show up in the men's Rumble? I don't think we've had any legends or shockers announced yet for the men's Rumble.
Nope.
So that's different from the women.
Yeah.
Who do you think might show up?
I think we're going to have Corey Graves is going to show up in the Rumble.
He's another one of mine.
I think Pat McAfee is going to be in the Rumble.
Oh, that would be good. I didn't even think about that.
And I think we're going to get Pat I think the commentary table for the men's Rumble is going to be Pat. It's going to be Michael Cole, and it's going to be Corey Graves.
Yeah.
And I think Corey Graves' music is going to hit first, and Corey Graves is going to get in the ring. I think right after Corey Graves, Pat McAfee's music is going to hit, and they're going to get in the ring, because they've been throwing some shots back and forth at each other the last couple of weeks on commentary. So I think that's that's one thing that they're going to do is have both of those guys in the Rumble. Throw Michael Cole in there as well.
Can I just say, if you call this right, this will be my favorite Rumble of all time. If that happens and these two guys get in there, all bets are off. That I love it. So good.
I would love it. I think that would be great. I think legends wise, I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know who would be other than one person that I may wait because I still don't know who's going to win the Rumble, and I haven't fully decided who I think is going to win the Rumble. But I'm going to hold off on who I think might win and the other big surprise entrance for that. But I also think that we're going to see some NXT guys. I think Walter or Gunther or whatever they're going to call him more than likely might be in there. I think Pete Dunne might show up in the Rumble. I think that would be really great as well to see that.
Yep.
And just to throw a name out there that would shock everybody and surprise everybody, because I'm sure you have one on there that I'm not going to mention because I'm going to save that for you. I think Moose might show up. Give me Moose in the Rumble. Yeah. Throw Moose in the Rumble. I don't think he's going to show. I think it's like a 0.00001% chance that he shows up, but throw Moose in the Rumble.
Okay. You know who I'm going to pick. My number one surprise is always ready. Matthew Cardona. I think right now is as good a chance as any, man. Yeah. He's on fire. WWE knows he's on fire. They know he is the biggest name in independent wrestling right now. So I'm not talking about AEW, just in general. If they could bring a guy in that would shock the world, that guy right there.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in
Nick Gage, but I don't think they're going to bring. I don't think they're going to bring Nick Gage in.
But I am going to throw in two more names that because Corey Graves, I had him on my list as well. Two more names that were on the GCW event this past weekend that I think could show up, and that's Jeff Jarrett, who is already confirmed to be in St. Louis Rumble weekend. He's going to be there, so I think Jarrett shows up. And I think X-Pac shows up in the Rumble.
That would be cool.
I think
X-Pac would be cool. He looked great.
He did.
Like he looked great at GCW. So that wouldn't shock me at all is to see that happen. To see him show up.
I think you get X-Pac in the Rumble. All right, best performer in the Royal Rumble for the men. I'm going to go either Kevin Owens or Damian Priest.
Yeah, Kevin Owens.
One of those
mine.
two dudes. Yep.
Yeah, Kevin Owens is mine. I think Kevin Owens is the Iron Man this year. I think he's going to take the 1 or 2 spot, and I think he goes the distance to be in the Final Four, maybe just outside the Final Four. But I think he's my dark horse to win the Rumble as well. And I think what could really happen is I think he could win the Rumble, and I think Seth could win the Universal Championship, and I think we get Seth versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship, and I think that's obviously we've seen it at WrestleMania, but we haven't seen it for a title. And I would love to see that. So I think that would be a great way for him to go. But I think he is definitely the dark horse and the Iron Man of the match this year.
And my winners is either going to be Kevin Owens, I think, or Big E. I think those are the obvious choices. I don't have a left field choice. I hope you do.
Oh, I do.
But I think those are the
a
obvious
big left field choice.
Please give me your left field choice.
If we're going to get Ronda at number 30, give us The Rock at 27 or something. Like if we're not doing Brock versus Roman, The Rock has to be showing up at the Rumble, win the Rumble. I've been saying this for months, and I'm going to die on this hill. I think we're getting Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania this year for biased reasons, but I hope we're getting Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania with The Rock showing up at the Rumble, winning the Rumble, and then as soon as the Rumble's over, we have a 2015 reunion with Roman coming out, and we have a face-to-face with The Rock right in the middle of the ring, and I am all for it. So I think he is my pick. I don't know how confident I am about the pick, but I think he might show up, and I think if he does show up, he's definitely winning the Rumble.
I'm not confident about your pick either, but if he shows up, he's winning. You're 100% right about that. I think you just gave us a perfect segue to tell everybody why we're so biased about Rock Roman WrestleMania. And the reason is because, ladies and gentlemen, we've kind of teased it for a couple of weeks, but Andy and I are going to be in the house at AT&T Stadium for WrestleMania 38, both nights. We are so pumped. We are going there. We're going to give you a ton of bonus coverage as we always do from WrestleMania. We're going to do live spots. We're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Thanks to the folks at bodyslam.net for allowing us to take over their stuff and sending them all of Our Happenings. We're going to do some live stuff with them. Going to do some live stuff with Tom and Sports Wire Radio. So make sure you tune into that. All from Dallas, all from WrestleMania. So if our picks sound a little biased, that's why.
I hope it's the greatest WrestleMania of all time, just because I'm there. My first ever WrestleMania, and if I get the Rock in my first ever WrestleMania, then I may never go to WrestleMania. And Austin, I may never go to WrestleMania again.
There would be no need for you to go to another WrestleMania. But WWE, they put out their schedule, or they're announced a couple of events today, or this week rather, and they said it's going to be the most stupendous WrestleMania week ever. They actually used that word.
They've been using that word too much already.
I agree. So, man, it's going to be awesome. I knew when they announced Dallas for WrestleMania. There's 100,000 seats in that stadium. They got to find a way to fill it up. 2 nights, trying to fill up 100,000 seats in 2 nights.
It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
So you got Roman and Brock headlining one night, or Roman and Rock.
Becky and Ronda.
Becky and Ronda headlining the other night.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that.
Nope.
All right, man.
No, you cannot.
So more on WrestleMania in the coming weeks, because we are on the road to WrestleMania, and it all kicks off this Saturday with the Royal Rumble. Make sure you keep it tuned in right here. We're going to go live after the Royal Rumble to talk about everything that happened. My dad's going to be on the show with us, and it's going to be fantastic. You don't want to miss it. So go live with us, interact with us. We'll read your comments live. Give us your feedback. Give us your questions. We'll be happy to take on all of those things.
Yep.
Don't forget, make sure you go back and check out our Royal Rumble Top 10 Countdown from Monday. Make sure you're tuned in Friday for AEW bonus content. You don't want to miss that either. Make sure you subscribe on social media. Follow us, like all of our things. I can't even talk right now. At PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Andy is at Andy_PBWP, and I am at Chris Belcher 24. Andy, what a loaded show today, man, and so much content again that we didn't get to. I'm ready for the Rumble, man. I'm pumped.
I am too. I'm so ready for it. Give it to me this week, and I'm ready to be surprised and freak out and watch it and love it.
It's gonna be great.
Yep.
All right, y'all keep it tuned in right here. This has been this edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out. We will catch you guys down the road.